So we're reading Psalm 109 today, and this is quite a difficult psalm to read, not because there's any complicated names, but because of the tone in which it takes. It's known as one of the imprecatory psalms, and a righteous man who is being opposed and treated badly calls for God's curse, basically, on those who are treating him badly. And it's difficult to know what to do with this, because we're not comfortable reading it. But just as we go through, it's worth bearing in mind that this is a Psalm of David, and that means that he is God's appointed king. This is not just a random believer who is getting angry with the way he's treated and calling down a curse on somebody else. This is God's appointed king. Someone is opposing, therefore, God's rule and reign through his appointed king. And perhaps from that perspective, it would be more helpful to think about this in terms of Jesus as the righteous king, bringing an end to the opposition of those who oppose him. But also it's worth remembering as well that the person who speaks this as we go through does not take personal vengeance on their opponents, but calls on God to do that. And there is a place for us to call on God to deal with the wicked, particularly those who are opposed to his righteous rule and reign. But obviously this is not all the Bible has to say on this subject, and we're also to pray for our enemies and to bless those who curse us. And so it's one part of a range of texts that help us to think through how we deal with these situations. But let's read and think a little bit more as we go along what we can make of this. So, for the director of music of David, a psalm. My God, whom I praise, do not remain silent. For people who are wicked and deceitful have opened their mouths against me. They have spoken against me with lying tongues. So these are wicked and deceitful people. We'll find out more about what that is towards the end of the psalm. And they are speaking against God's king with lying tongues. They are in opposition to him, and they are dealing in trading in lies. If we think about the global biblical perspective, that surely has to be Satan and his work, and rightly God's king then opposes God's enemy, Satan. With words of hatred they surround me, they attack me without cause. In return for my friendship they accuse me, but I am a man of prayer. They repay me evil for good and hatred for friendship. Appoint someone evil to oppose my enemy. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is tried, let him be found guilty, and may his prayers condemn him. May his days be few, may another take his place of leadership. May his children be fatherless, and his wife a widow. May his children be wandering beggars. May they be driven from their ruined homes. May a creditor seize all he has. May strangers plunder the fruits of his labour. May no one extend kindness to him, or take pity on his fatherless children. May his descendants be cut off, their names blotted out from the next generation. May the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord. May the sin of his mother never be blotted out. May their sins always remain before the Lord, that he may blot out their name from the earth. It's pretty strong stuff, isn't it? And it is this call for merciless judgment on these wicked. And right, we recall a little bit from this. It's like, whoa, hang on, that's a bit heavy. But let's just read on to find out exactly what these people have been doing. For he never thought of doing a kindness, but hounded to death the poor and the needy and the broken-hearted. He loved to pronounce a curse. May it come back on him. He found no pleasure in blessing. May it be far from him. He wore cursing as his garment. It entered into his body like water, into his bones like oil. May it be like a cloak wrapped about him, like a belt tied forever round him. May this be the Lord's payment to my accusers, to those who speak evil of me. So David is actually praying that the people who have been opposing him would in a sense experience their own treatment of others, the merciless way that they have behaved towards others would be visited upon them. It's interesting, isn't it, in the story that Jesus tells of the merciless servant, the one who's forgiven much and then refuses to forgive the one who owes him a little. He loses the forgiveness that he was given, and is shown no mercy by the king. And so there is a principle here that is going on, that those who are unjust and merciless rightly deserve merciless, just treatment, and David is wishing on this enemy an experience exactly to fit the experience that he's meted out on others. It's justice that David is after here. But he goes on to pray. But you, sovereign Lord, help me for your name's sake. Out of the goodness of your love, deliver me. For I am poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me. I fade away like an evening shadow. I'm shaken off like a locust. My knees give way from fasting. My body is thin and gaunt. I'm an object of scorn to my accusers. When they see me, they shake their heads. Help me, Lord my God. Save me according to your unfailing love. Let them know that it is your hand, that you, Lord, have done it. While they curse, may you bless. May those who attack me be put to shame, but may your servant rejoice. May my accusers be clothed with disgrace and wrapped in shame as in a cloak. With my mouth I will greatly extol the Lord. In the great throng of worshippers I will praise him. For he stands at the right hand of the needy, to save their lives from those who would condemn them. So David is wrestling with this situation of unjust treatment by others, and longing for God's justice to be meted out on them, and asking God for his mercy towards himself to rescue him, to lift him out of this situation. But he reminds himself at the end that God is the God of the needy, the one who rescues those who are condemned by others. He is the one who lifts his people. And so there's a whole load of emotions that run through here. And as we go out into today, it is right to pray for God's justice on the wicked. It is right to pray for an end to the wickedness of those who are enemies of God's people. We particularly want to pray for the downfall of all Satan's work, and that those gates of Hades would be bashed down as Jesus raids and rescues people from the kingdom of darkness. It's right to pray for that justice. But it's also interesting to remind ourselves yet again that God is a God of mercy and grace, that he is the God of blessing, and while there is justice, there is also forgiveness and mercy. And just as Jesus cried for those who put him on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do, we need to also cultivate, alongside that right sense of wanting justice, forgiveness to lost sinners who, like us, were blind in their sin, and now need to find mercy. So let's tread carefully as we go through today with the things that rightly make us long for justice, but also recognising the need for mercy as we go, and most of all longing that God's King, Jesus, would be exalted, and that God's enemy, Satan, would be brought to nothing.